In today's lesson, we'll talk about ratios. Ratios are ways to compare two different quantities of different items. So in this picture, we have 2 stars and 3 circles. So if I want to write a ratio, there are 3 different ways I can write it. The first way is using words. So if I ask, what is the ratio of stars to circles, I would write the stars number first. In this case, that's 2. And I would write the word to, T-O, and I would compare it to the 3 circles. So I could say the ratio of stars to circles is 2 to 3. I can also write it 2 with a colon 3, and this is still read 2 to 3. Or the third way, which is how we're going to focus on it today, is writing it in a fraction form. If I'm writing it as a fraction, I need to use the first number on top in the numerator. So that means I would still write 2 first, but this time this symbol represents the word 2. So 2, the number, to 3 circles. And this is how I'm going to focus on it today. This is helpful because I can then compare, if I were to say, what if there are 6 circles, I can create an equivalent fraction. So if I say there are 6 circles, how many stars are there? Well, I can see that 3 times 2 would give me 6. So if I do the same to the top, 2 times 2 would be 4. So I could say if I changed it and all of a sudden I had 6 circles, but the ratio was the same, I would have 4 stars. So we're going to focus on using fractions in order to compare and use ratios today. Here is an example from your book. There were 12 girls and 16 boys in the class. What was the ratio of boys to girls? We have to pay close attention to the order of the way the question is asked. So if it says boys to girls, that means we need the boys to be in the numerator, the first number we see, and that will be compared to the girls. So be careful in the order of the question because it was given to you differently in the story. So boys to girls, I can go back to the story and I can see that there were 12 girls and there were 16 boys. So then I just need to go ahead and fill it into my ratio. So that means there were 16 boys, let me use a pen, there were 16 boys to 12 girls. And you can see that this is a fraction that could be reduced. So I'm going to find the greatest common factor, and in this case, I think I'm going to use 4. You could divide by 2 and then by 2 again, but this is just reducing or simplifying fractions. Remember, I want to divide by a name for 1, so 4/4 would work. And I could reduce it down to 16 divided by 4 would give me 4, and 12 divided by 4 could give me 3. And what this is saying is that in this class, for every 4 boys, there are 3 girls, and that is the ratio. So it's just taking the information you're given, writing it as a fraction, and then simplifying. Now is time to practice on lesson practice. If you want help, you can keep watching, or if you're ready to try on your own, you can press pause and then check your answers when you're done. There are 2 different pieces of information in our lesson practice. The first one is all about prairie dogs and jackrabbits. So I'm going to start on this one. So this is kind of like question 1. There were 20 prairie dogs and 30 jackrabbits in a section of the Texas High Plains. So I'm going to highlight the important information. In this case, it's 20 prairie dogs and 30 jackrabbits. There are 2 questions being asked here. The first one is question A. What was the ratio of jackrabbits to prairie dogs? So you can see they've asked for the jackrabbits first, which means that the number that goes with jackrabbits goes in the numerator, and the prairie dogs will be in the denominator. So this is saying for every 30 jackrabbits, there are 20 prairie dogs. These are both multiples of 10. So I'm going to simplify this pretty easily by dividing them both by 10, which equals an answer of 3 to 2. And I ran out of space, so I'll write it here. Oops, 3 jackrabbits for every 2 prairie dogs. That's my final answer for letter A. Question B asks, what was the ratio of prairie dogs to jackrabbits? Well, this is actually a pretty straightforward answer because you're using all the same numbers, so you don't need to solve it again. In this case, the point is just that you're changing the order. So that means for question B, prairie dogs would go first, which means the 20, which reduced to the 2, and jackrabbits will go second in the denominator here. So our final answer is just 2/3 for question B. Then we move on to questions C and D, and they all relate to the socks in George's drawer. So the question says, there were 8 red socks and 10 blue socks in George's drawer. What was the ratio of red socks to blue socks? In this case, there are 8 red and 10 blue. We need to pay close attention to the way it's been written. Red socks will go first, so that means 8 in the numerator compared to 10 in the denominator. So 8 to 10, and I can simplify that if I want to divide by 2. They're both even numbers. So 8 divided by 2 would be 4, 10 divided by 2 is 5. So it's 4 to 5 is the ratio of red socks to blue socks. So this line here is like saying TO, the word to. And then the second question, question D, is similar to question B. It's asking for the ratio of blue socks to red socks. So all it's asking is for you to switch the order of the ratio since the numbers still remain the same. So for question D, the final answer is 5 to 4. And you are done.